Sukkah, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Gimel. The Mishnah continues with three other instances where the Sukkah will be psula. Pires oleho sodin, if he spread a sheet. Mipnei achama, he spread the sheet above the Sukkah because of the sun. Oitachteho, or beneath the schach, bipnei hanashor, because of the dropping leaves. The Bartanura gives two interpretations to this. The first, and he specifically mentions the dropping leaves, the sheet that he's spreading is a dover hamakabel tuma, and therefore it's possible, because it can become tomei, it is possible for schach. More of that in later Mishnayos. He placed the sheet, in the case of the nashor, the drop leaves, shelo yehi alin v'kismin yodim ala shulchan, so that the leaves should not fall and bother him, disturb him as they fall onto the table. Explains the Tosas Yontov what that means regarding the chamor, therefore. It's lahogein al ha'odom pnei ha'chamor, to shield the person sitting in the sukkah from the heat, from the sun. Continues the Bartanura, pirush acher, or a further interpretation. He is placing the sheet not to prevent the person sitting in the sukkah from feeling uncomfortable, but shelo yinoshru ha'alim la'achar sheyovsho. This is to prevent the leaves, after they've dried up, from falling, and therefore one would have a sukkah which would have more sunlight than shade. To prevent the leaves dropping as they dry, he placed this sheet underneath the schach to keep the leaves in place and not fall. Which would therefore mean the first part of the Mishnah, which mentions because of the sun, to prevent the sunlight or the heat from the sun drying up the leaves and again reducing the shade so that there would be more sunlight than shade. This is the reason he placed the sheet. For both of those reasons, the sukkah would be pasula, because the sheet is something which is makabel tuma, can become tomei, and therefore it's possible for schach. However, says the Bartanura, avol lina'oiso kashera, had this sheet been placed just to beautify the sukkah, that would be kashera. However, continues the third case in the Mishnah, oy shepires al gabe hakinuf pasula. These examples are all pasula. He spreads the sheet al gabe hakinuf. What is a kinuf? Explains the Bartanura, this is a four-poster bed, the posts coming from the raglaim, the legs of the bed, vertically, and on top of the vertical raglaim, or in fact they're like posts, he makes a frame on top, and then over the whole bed is placed a sheet. In that case, it will still be possible, says the Bartanura, even though this sheet is there lenoi, for beauty, al mitosoi, on top of his bed. Nevertheless, seeing, says the Bartanura, hirchiku min haschach, this it has at a distance from the schach, in fact more than 4 tfachim from the schach, in that case, this oil, this sheet, is mafsik between the individual sitting in the sukkah, or in his bed, and the actual schach itself. So, the sukkah would be psula. Avul poiresu al gabi naklite hamita. He could spread the sheet over a two-poster bed. A two-poster bed with one post at the person's feet and one at his head, two posts, and a sheet then going up, because the top of the two posts would be placed another beam. The sheet therefore would go up at an angle and then over the beam at the top of the bed. In that case, that would be fine. Says the Bartenura, because on top, ein lo gag tefach, rochav lamalo. There would not be a roof. The sheet would not form a roof the width of a tefach, and therefore that would not be considered, the top would not be considered an oil, but it would just be a sheet going up at an angle with no oil on top, and therefore this would not be considered an oil, which would be mafsik, make a gap between the individual and the schach on top of the sukkah, and therefore that would be fine.